You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Bro Down Podcast. I'm Tim Fulton.
And I'm Andy Smith.
And this is What Do You Got?
What do you got?
Today on What Do You Got, we are going to be talking about Star Wars Part 2, now that we've both seen The Rise of Skywalker. I should have had that audio already.
Yeah, you should have. I had to do it for you.
Yeah, it happens. Rise of Skywalker, what were your thoughts?
Better than The Last Jedi.
Yeah, well, that's not hard. I think J.J. Abrams did like a little redemption arc for...
There was a couple little digs in there, I think, at The Last Jedi.
We have discussed this a little bit, but I think everything I didn't like about this movie was J.J. Abrams fixing what was broken in the last movie. So None of it I blame on him.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a lot of that.
There was a lot.
Yeah. The last two movies were a dumpster fire, right?
The Last Jedi specifically, but yeah.
The Last Jedi was a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
The Force Awakens felt like Star Wars. I thought it was a good Star Wars movie.
It was a good Star Wars movie.
It was solid.
We can agree to that.
There's a couple things that you can nitpick, you know, but the potential for having them paid off was there.
Yeah, that's what I felt like was the biggest thing with The Force Awakens. It was a setup for the next two movies.
Exactly. So we already talked about The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
The Rise of Skywalker. Okay. Excuse me. Couple things that I liked. I thought that even the whole Emperor, whether you liked that they brought him back, didn't like brought him back, I thought that those scenes were done really well.
Yeah.
He looked fucking creepy as shit, and it was badass. I thought the actual action segments were good. Like
they had dope scenes in there.
Yeah, there were some pretty cool fucking things. And I saw it twice in the theaters. The second time, there was a couple things that I originally was like, oh, what the fuck is this? And then it was when I watched it the second time, I'm like, oh, they kind of explained it. Never mind.
Okay.
So one of them was, well, if that's the case, why don't we just do the whole light speed thing and just blast in there?
I saw that.
There was a scene in the movie where the guy said, like, why don't we just pull a, whatever that lady, General, whatever name. And he's like, and I guess Poe was like, that's like a 1 in a million thing. Like, that's why nobody ever does it, is because it's.
See, that's J.J. Abrams picking up the pieces.
Yeah, that was one of them.
Yeah.
Another small one was when they jumped on the spoiler alert.
Oh, yeah. Obviously, spoilers for this whole... We're a little late to that.
Yeah, we're a little late on that. We have to put that in the title.
That's your own fault. If we're talking about Rise of Skywalker and you're going to be upset... Okay, continue.
Yeah, we have to put a spoilers alert thing on there. But when they jumped onto the Millennium Falcon off of the Star Destroyer, I was like, they were just standing on it, which is like, okay. And then all of a sudden it just goes off completely vertical. I'm like, well, where the fuck are they going?
Where are the people?
When I watched it the second time, I noticed that Chewie had the hatch open and he was waving them in. And I was like, okay.
See, little details.
Okay.
The little details matter.
Yeah. It was like, all right, that's cool. The other things that I didn't like, I thought the scenes with Rey were good.
Yeah.
I thought the scenes with Rey were good. I thought most of the scenes with Kylo were pretty good. The stuff that I didn't like about it was kind of the same stuff I didn't like. A couple of same things I didn't like from The Last Jedi, which was the breadcrumbing us while letting us watch it instead of letting us watch it.
They tell you too much. They don't let you interpret.
Yeah, like when Poe is at the end and he's like, oh my God, like it's all lost. Everything's lost. Like they're not coming. Nobody's coming. It's like when you do that, now we know people are coming because you're doing it. Like, why does he have to say everything? And then they did the same thing in the throne room that they did with Snoke. When the Emperor was like, grab your saber and strike me down. And you're like, all right, like we don't need a play-by-play. Like you can just let the movie, the visual, tell the story instead of having to like breadcrumb us through the whole fucking thing.
Let us figure it out. That's half the joy of movies.
Yeah. And then there was a couple convenient plot things, like they fell right where the fucking guy just happened to be. Luke couldn't find him. Nobody could find him.
That bothered me. So the first half of the movie bothered me for reasons like that. I felt like they were trying to go on like this epic quest to like find all these things.
It was rushed.
It was rushed. It was like the first half of this movie should have been The Last Jedi.
Yes.
If they had done that, it would have felt so much more real to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it like, oh, you're right. Like, we have to go find this thing that only this guy has, but no one's ever been able to find it. Luke Skywalker, the strongest Jedi to ever exist, couldn't figure it out.
Oh,
there he is.
They fell right on top of him almost.
And then they go down into this thing. All right. It looks like a giant cavern made by some worm creature thing. Give you that, Star Wars. That's kind of cool.
Totally cool. They had one in the Return of the, not Return of the Jedi, Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah. Then they walk in one direction. There he is. It bothered me. They could have been down there for half an hour.
Yeah, I didn't so much mind that snake was down there as much as I minded what happened with the snake.
Yeah.
They're just like, all right, we're going to heal him. That thing don't look like it gives a shit. It's not a cat. It's not a dog. Granted, it's Star Wars. Who the fuck knows? But that it just let you go because you fixed its boo-boo. All right. Whatever.
That it has the mental capacity.
That was the other thing. Yes, it has the mental capacity.
To understand. Oh, you healed. Oh, you're a good guy.
Yeah.
You're not lunch.
I get it that they wanted to show that it's a possibility to heal people, but they did it in, spoiler alert, Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was the setup.
Yes, they showed it in that.
Yeah.
So the thing with that they also explained that I watched a second time was that when they find the knife and they find the dagger, they say that if you stand on the South Shore or the South Shore, whatever, that's where you have to use it. I didn't hear that the first time I watched it.
I didn't hear that either.
So granted, that I think the wreckage is so big that anywhere close to where the South Shore, I guess, would be, if it's like a point, would kind of give you the right thing because it's so far away. But you know what I mean?
She was standing in the correct spot to use that stupid little side thing.
Not only that, here's the other thing. Not only that, wouldn't it have been easier just to say the Emperor's chambers?
Yeah.
It's right next to his throne.
Yeah.
Right next to where Luke and Vader had their final fight.
Well, it is the Death Star, so people might not know where that is.
That's true.
The Death Star is supposed to be the size of a fucking moon. Granted, only a small part of that made it down to where they were.
But there's no floor map or nothing of it anymore.
Yeah.
Plus, you'd have to know where it is.
Could you imagine what that would be like? Could you imagine being in like the Death Star and there's like little maps like you are here, like in
like a hospital?
Yeah,
like the little lines. You know how many lines would be? You know what I also notice about Star Wars?
What?
That it's always weird. If you think this is just coming from my stupid brain, but there's never any construction crews.
No.
No construction droids. Nothing. Shit just gets built. There's people patrolling, but there's never a dude with his ass crack hanging out. Like, I need a 3/8 wrench. Like, give me that shit. Only when they got to rebuild the hyperdrive.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else just magically gets fixed. Another thing I didn't like. Couple like little things here.
Little nitpicks.
Two things that happened on that planet that I didn't like. Numero uno. The fact that they crashed the Millennium Falcon into the ground. Because the landing gear wouldn't work. But when have they ever skated like a plane? It's always gone right down.
They don't skate like a plane.
No. So why would it make sense to just bury the fucker in the ground? Wouldn't you just like lay it down on an uneven surface because you don't have the landing gear?
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
And then it's like that thing gets so fucked up all the time and everyone knows how to fix it always. Every part of it. Like, how smart are people in the future?
super,
like really smart.
Super smart.
Like you
And
got to
they
weld
always
shit.
conveniently have someone who knows how to fix it.
Yeah, like you got to know every part in this fucking spaceship. Then you got to have the tools to make it airtight and functional in space. And you just like crashed it. Like if you like douche your car into a tree and then you were like, oh, me and my 5 friends got to fix it, would you be confident bringing it on the highway?
No.
Probably not.
No.
What about in space?
No.
No. The other thing I didn't like was what they did with Finn.
What do you mean?
Like, I felt like Finn's for me, I felt like Finn's story was unique because he was like one of the only stormtroopers, if not the only stormtrooper, to desert.
Yeah.
And that's what's made him special. And he was like, they had like some hints that he kind of maybe had a little bit of force power, which is kind of why they let him use a lightsaber. I can admit all that, or submit to that.
Force wizards.
But then they land on this planet with those pig horses, and the girl's like, "Oh yeah, like
There's an entire battalion.
yeah, we were there shooting civilians, and then we're like, no, fuck this. We're just gonna throw a fucking like, oh, it was just pre-planned? No, just all did it at the same time. Like, oh, so like I'm not special. There's
Not
nothing
at all.
about me that's special.
They did kind of ruin Finn's character, and again, I think this is a problem with The Last Jedi because he did nothing in the last movie.
He did nothing in the last 2 movies, really.
He went on like some like weird ass side adventure that was meaningless in the end, completely meaningless.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, they built up none of his character.
Yeah.
They could have had such a cool thing, and I was watching this thing. Who was the chick general that he was constantly facing in the first
Phasma.
one? Yeah, Phasma.
Captain Phasma.
Yeah, she died in the second one, right? They should have left that till now.
I know.
They could have had this epic showdown.
That one dude that did it. Yeah, that
and
one.
now, even when he has force powers now, kind of, sort of, but he's not good. But he's force sensitive. They could have done something.
Yeah.
They could have done something cool, but they wasted it.
I don't like the fact that they pick like we got to hit all the points here because people are gonna fucking be mad if we don't.
Yeah, of course.
I don't like the fact that they kind of pick and choose when they use certain things and when they don't. Right. So I can see like, all right, he has force powers, but at the end when they're like, oh, they just stopped the signal. Where's it coming from? And he just looks up and he's like, that ship. And they're like, how do you know that? And then all the music stops and he's like, I can feel it.
Imagine he points to the wrong one.
He never said what ship. He just said that one over there.
Oh, yeah.
Not to me, that's a big point.
No, but I see your point.
But you're just like, that one over there. There's thousands of them. You just specified that. There's thousands of them.
All right, and going back to that, so the first order, the last order, whatever.
Last order.
The last order. So they knew what the plan was, or they figured it out. They transferred this signal thingy from the ground to one ship, right?
No, the ground to all ships. Yeah.
No.
Oh, no. After they shut it down, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They transferred it from the ground antenna thing to this one ship's antenna thing. Why not give it to all the ships? Or once that ship started, they literally had a landing party on that ship go at them. Why weren't they suddenly like, oh, we'll just put it on another one?
Yeah,
There's
think
thousands of ships. There's only one useful antenna. Why?
Yeah, I think what they should have done.
That bothered me way more than it should have.
I think what they were trying to say was that might have been the only ship that had the capability of projecting that big of a signal because it was the flagship.
That's stupid.
It's not really that stupid though, because if you think
give it to all of
about
them?
if they have to triangulate their position or whatever, if you have a signal on every ship, each ship could do it individually, but you kind of like because they can't tell which way's up, down, north, south, east, west.
I agree, but if you're going to go to the trouble to create thousands of ships, you're going to make one with an antenna capable of... Only one has an antenna capable of getting off the planet?
Well, here's the thing.
No one think that through?
Yeah, I don't. But at the same time, I don't think that they ever thought that was ever going to be an issue. Like, how many times does 7 million, like 7,000 Star Destroyers leave a planet all at one time?
That's true, but at the same time, Emperor Foresight over there...
Yeah, I know. I know.
It bothers me.
And then the other thing, too, they really downgraded. They really took, like, these OP weapons that they had in the past and made them like, yeah, we got them all now.
Yeah,
like,
that bothers me,
everything had a planet-killing gun on it. And you're like, well, dude, like, if you could have done that, then Starkiller Base was just stupid.
Yeah.
Because it took weeks to absorb a sun and kill a couple planets, but you could have just easily done that in 10 minutes with, like, 10 different shots.
Yeah. Don't forget, in that, they didn't know that the Emperor was alive. Even the First Order didn't know that the Emperor was alive.
That's true.
So they didn't know that all these planet-killing weapons were there. But I agree that it kind of minimalizes, like, the past several movies by
And at the same time, though, too, like, even though, I get it, the Emperor's, like, really powerful with the Force, but is he an engineer? Does he know how to make planet-killing weapons? Like, where's he getting all these smart people that know how to make something that took the entirety of a Death Star, literally something the size of a planet, and condense it into, like, a really big blaster gun?
Yeah. That's instant.
That's instant.
The Death Star had to, like, charge up and shit.
Yeah. I wasn't particularly fond of that. Like, as if having the biggest fleet of all time wasn't bad enough.
That was the
Overkill.
moment we talked about this, but that was the moment where I said to myself in the theater, "This is a movie. Enjoy the fucking movie. Don't criticize every goddamn thing you see, because otherwise I would have just sat there cranky."
Exactly. Yeah.
And like, so I did start to enjoy the movie. Going back to like happy things, the moment I didn't like that Rey and Kylo Ren were like passing matter back and forth, and they had a lightsaber fight.
It's too much.
It was too much.
A little too much.
But they introduced the concept, so it's there. The
Badass
moment when
scene.
she passed the lightsaber to him, that was fucking badass.
That was almost worth it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was almost worth it because he does that shit, what I thought was kind of silly, but it was badass, where he gets it and he's like let's go, bitch.
It was really cool.
That was another thing J.J. Abrams did that was like trying to force it in there because of what the fuck up was the Knights of Ren. The Knights of Ren were Kylo Ren's like little elite force of guys.
Yeah.
And they mentioned them in the first movie, and then they kind of like didn't really show them. And then the second movie, never hear about them. And everyone complained like where these guys were supposed to be like the badass elite. And then in this movie, they were like, we got to find screen time for them. I'm like, where? Just have them walking ominously around the whole cast and crew, like just never doing anything, just kind of there.
Walking.
And then they're the ones that fight him in the end.
Yeah.
And it's like, do they have lightsabers? No. They have like old school axes and shit with lights on them.
Because like, I don't know if they're supposed to be force sensitive, so that's why they don't get lightsabers, because they're not Sith.
But you can get a lightsaber no matter who you are in this universe.
But there's only so many lightsabers.
You can make them.
Yeah, but I think that's supposed to be like a Jedi only thing.
Well, anyone can pick up a lightsaber now, apparently.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, in the old movies, the only person to ever pick up a lightsaber, I think, episodes 1 through 6, that wasn't a Jedi was Han Solo. And he only did it to cut open that yak thing.
I did not know that.
Think about any other time that a non-Jedi picks up a lightsaber, or non-Sith Lord. I don't think you can think of one.
Well, actually, there's the question, General Grievous. The robot.
He had training in the Jedi arts. So he wasn't a Sith. He wasn't really like a Sith apprentice, but he had killed.
It was his collection. Those were the lightsabers he got off of the Jedi.
That might be the only other one, yeah.
But I don't know. He might count as a Sith. He might. So he may or may not count. I'm sure.
So that's 2.
Yeah, 2. With an asterisk next to it.
With an asterisk, yeah. So, but now it's just like anybody can just pick them up, I guess. But the other thing that was Rose.
Yeah, poor Rose.
When they were like, "Hey, you gonna be in this movie like you were in the last one?" She's like, I got
now I'm gonna stay on this planet instead.
I got a test I gotta study for. Literally, that's what she said. I have to study things. Oh, that was another one.
Is that what she said?
She said I have to study. The general says I have to study the plans for the new things. I got to study.
This is like
O'Doyle
the universe-ending mission. I got to study.
Yeah. So another thing I thought too, in the first time I watched it, was when they brought the fucking pig horses onto the Death Star, and I originally thought, why on earth would you bring them there, assuming that you were going to ride them on that, which wasn't the original plan? So seeing it the second time, they said, we will eliminate that tower. Our ground forces will take it out. And I was like, oh, so they brought the horses there originally to take out the tower.
Yeah. Oh, no, that I knew.
But then again, I thought at the same time, why the fuck would they bring them originally from the planet that they were on with them?
I guess they just convinced them. How did they get them?
They had yeah. They had the Millennium Falcon.
They fit all those horses on the Millennium Falcon.
Maybe they sent a ship back. I don't know. I did think it was cool that they got Harrison Ford to go back, even though that was kind of confusing. I guess it was his memory because he wasn't a Force ghost.
He wasn't a Force ghost. That scene was originally going to go to Leia, but obviously they couldn't. So that's why they put Harrison Ford in, because he was like, it was going to be her Force ghost. That was the original plan. It was going to be Leia's Force ghost doing the interaction with him.
That makes more sense.
Yeah, but they had to scratch it.
Also, what happened to Luke's green lightsaber?
So, the green lightsaber. All right, this is going to be super confusing. The blue lightsaber was originally his father's, right?
That Obi-Wan took from him.
That Obi-Wan took.
After he defeated him on the lava planet, I believe.
Yes. Obi-Wan gives it to Luke. Luke loses the blue lightsaber when he loses his hand to Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah, spoiler alert from 1981.
Good job.
Yeah.
Then he makes his own green lightsaber.
What happened to that one?
Yeah, I'm at a loss.
What happened to that lightsaber?
He must have kept it. He had to have kept it.
I believe the green lightsaber is the one that he has in the flashback where he's about to kill Kylo Ren.
It is.
What happened to that lightsaber?
He must have kept it. It must be on that weird planet.
That doesn't make any sense to me because that's technically his lightsaber.
Yeah.
The blue one is his dad's lightsaber.
Yeah.
And Obi-Wan's.
And Obi-Wan's.
Kind of Obi-Wan's. Not really. I don't know. I think Obi-Wan had a blue one as well.
He did.
That was originally Qui-Gon's.
No.
Qui-Gon had a green
he
one.
ended up losing Qui-Gon's.
No. Where?
In episode 2. I would have to look back, but I know he loses it. I watched this whole thing on him, and he built like 2 of them.
Okay. Because that was confusing to me. Why? Because I thought when she does the X thing, which again, I thought they could have done a better job with that.
The X thing?
When she's got the one lightsaber up.
Oh, yeah.
And then she gets the other one. It would have been cool if one was blue and one was green.
Yeah.
Instead of both being blue.
Well, they're not. I thought one was supposed to be yellow because one was Leia's.
No. Leia had a blue one.
No, Leia had a yellow one.
No, she didn't. The flashback showed Leia had a blue lightsaber. That's one of the ones she was using with that.
You're right.
Rey's the only one that ever had a yellow lightsaber. She builds it in the end, and she got the little disc that she spins.
I'm not sure she had the same color as Luke's.
No, she didn't. I saw it in this yesterday. In the flashback, she didn't have the same color.
I know.
Luke has a green
I know,
one.
not the flashback, but when in the scene where Luke gives Rey Leia's lightsaber and she turns it on, I swear to God, I think it's yellow or green or something. It's not blue.
I don't think so.
Don't quote me on that.
I don't think so.
But I'm curious.
Yeah, but the other thing too, like I don't know what 2 lightsabers does. I mean, I guess it's
double power.
I thought it would have been. This is minor, just like my own thought on it. I thought it would have been cooler if, as she caught it, she like whipped it at him, and either it distracted him or like lopped him off a knee,
chopped off his hand,
and then she could have went in and like exploded him with the other one.
Yeah,
but just be like like the whole Tony Stark thing. Fucking dude, if you go back and rewatch Endgame, because I heard that comparison from like several people, it's awkwardly similar.
Really,
the way everything happens.
Oh.
Kinda.
Oh, I could see that.
But I wasn't really like super mad at that.
No.
But
one last thought because we're gonna run
running over.
What do you think of the Leia scenes?
I thought Leia's scenes were good.
Yeah, I agree. I think they did a lot of justice for Carrie Fisher.
We didn't even talk about that. We didn't. Yeah, I thought we didn't talk about Chewie.
Oh dear God.
That's the one scene. I don't think I've ever been like, I wish Chewie was dead more.
Yeah, I know. I don't want.
I'm glad he's alive, but
I'm the same way. I'm happy he's alive, but I'm not. They should. If they had left him dead, I feel like that would have been so impactful.
They showed one ship. Show multiple ships.
But that scene made no sense.
No.
It made zero sense. They're on a plateau surrounded by desert. First off, they didn't see the ship to begin with. The thing's fucking huge. They're on a plateau surrounded by desert. How do you not see it?
How do you not see it land there?
It's right there. Then, apparently, there's two. And they don't see it take off. They don't see it at all. They take off. Not one person turns around, looks out the window, and says, "Oh, guys, there was a second ship down there." Makes no sense. Chewie should be dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
In my brain, I was like, listen, things happen in confusing battles and shit like that. You get sidetracked. You don't notice things. You do notice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That was a badass scene when she cuts the TIE fighter in half, and it was also badass when she fucking force lightnings the goddamn ship.
This was the other thing
You're like,
that
holy
bothered.
shit.
This was the other thing that bothered me in the movie, and part of it is based off the fact that I'm a nerd and like I like watch like old Star Wars videos and like people like have like fan theories and shit like this. A lot of people brought up a good point that the Jedi Order was like promoted to be like this all good thing, but it really wasn't, because they had such strict rules. They kind of kidnapped children in a weird way, and like it didn't work. The Jedi Order fell apart because they were not good at what they did. Obviously, the Sith are known to be bad. I thought in this movie they were going to build Rey up to be like this middle ground. She had force powers. She was clearly teetering on the either or. So was she going to be a Jedi or a Sith? I thought that they were going to be like, she's neither. She is a force-sensitive person who does good things, but she can do shit. She can shoot lightning out of her hand. She can do all this other crap. And so like the entire movie, I thought they were building up to that, and it was just kind of it wasn't abandoned because it was never really a thing.
Yeah.
But in my head, it was abandoned. I'm like, well, that kind of sucks.
Well, I was thinking about this the other day, and when it comes to the Jedi versus the Sith, right?
Yeah.
Now, hear me out on this. Is the Force something that you draw power from, and there's like a limited number of power that can be dispersed on the good and bad side?
I believe so.
Okay. So that means that makes sense why the Sith would only want two. Because that means that they get all of the dark side power, if we're kind of omit to that being a kind of a thing, right?
I think that's kind of what it was implied in this last movie, but I've played a video game, the Star Wars. Oh god,
whatever.
They made an MMO based off of it, but there was two games.
Old Republic. Old Republic.
Yeah. So the Old Republic's the MMO, but there are two standalone games before that were just like single player, and you would go to like Sith bases, and they were set up the same way as the Jedi were, but the evil version. So at least in the video games, which I think they have
some of them,
they're known as canon. Like I think they are like legitimate storyline things, that there are like academies. So there are multiple Sith.
Yeah.
Maybe that it's just for the game because they had to like have lots of bad guys instead of like just two.
Yeah, because they kind of go from one Sith Lord to the next, which kind of brings you like, where's the turnover in the recruiting process? But
that's not always true though, because in Episode 1, we know that the Emperor is there. We know Qui-Gon's master was already turned. He's not in that movie, but he's already turned.
That's what I mean. Like, there's always two. There's only two.
But there was also, what's his face? Black Red guy.
Darth Maul, but he died in the end of the first one.
Yeah, but that makes 3 in the first episode. You don't see Qui-Gon's master, but in the timeline-wise, he's already bad guy.
Who's Qui-Gon's master?
Old dude.
Dooku?
Yeah.
No, Dooku only goes in after he dies.
Are you sure?
That's as far as the movie. You don't ever see him in Episode 1.
I know, but I'm saying storyline-wise, I think he's already a bad guy in Episode 1.
Yeah,
you don't see him, so there's no confirmation.
Yeah, I don't know how it works. Like, you could be part of the dark side, but not a Sith Lord, but you're part of working for the dark side. But what I was thinking was they always talk about, but this is where I was saying.
Yeah,
They always
sorry,
talk
no.
about balance.
Yeah.
Balance in the Force. Whenever anyone thinks of balance, though, everyone that I've ever talked to, they always take that to mean destruction of evil.
I know exactly where you're going. And
But
I'm
at the
thinking-
same time, you're thinking like, well, no, because there's only 2 Sith Lords and there's thousands of Jedi. Balance would essentially be like they're going to even that playing field and take out, which why they say Anakin will bring balance to the Force. It's like, well, yeah.
He
If you're
did.
talking about good versus evil, but then it like swings way far the other way with like the Empire taking over and everything like that. But if it's just talking about like Force users and like who's going on that, the only thing that's like weird though is like, yeah, the Empire does the same thing, and the Jedi kind of do the same thing where they take children and they make them into these warriors. But the Jedi kind of stand by like a code that's.
Think about this for a second, though. So they go to Anakin's planet. They find this young kid, right?
Yeah.
They sense that he is an extremely Force-sensitive individual. Qui-Gon lies to him, says, I need to take your blood. I want to make sure you're not sick. Or he says something like that.
Yeah.
So he takes his blood under false pretenses.
Which is fucking whatever, dude. It's whatever.
Doctors
Dude,
would
he's
disagree.
a fucking slave.
So they find out he has Force powers. They take him from his mother. They don't even attempt to free her.
But you see what you're twisting the words here, though.
They don't even attempt to free her. They take this child, this 9-year-old.
They do attempt to free her. Yes, they do. He tries to buy both Anakin and the mom, and he said no person is worth 2 slaves. That's out of the question. Not going to happen. And he goes back and he goes, fine, the boy then. And then he goes, all right, if it lands on blue, it's the kid. If it lands on red, it's the mom. And there's a 6-sided die, and there's 4 red sides and only 2 blue sides.
Okay.
And he rolls the dice, and Qui-Gon does a little hand roll, and he makes it turn on the side that is the kid.
Okay.
So they tried to free the mom. But the problem that you're having, though, is I get what you're doing was when you break it down and you take out all, like, the filler language of, like, oh, we didn't mention the fact that he's a slave. We didn't mention the fact that he would have remained a slave on this planet till his dying day.
That's
It's
fair.
we're going to bring him to an academy where this super powerful person, if he falls into the wrong hands, will definitely become evil. We're going to attempt to correct his course. So I see what you're saying,
It's a 9-year-old child that they've.
but they do it to younger children. That's the point.
That's the thing.
But
These young kids, they're 4 and 5, and when they're 4 and 5 years old, they are basically signed up for life. You do not leave the Jedi Order.
yeah,
It's a lifetime commitment
yeah.
from 4
If you pass your training.
if you pass your training.
Yeah.
From 4 to 5 years old. And someone online was like, well, Anakin made the choice to do it. Of course he did. He's a 9-year-old kid saying, hey, you want to learn to use Force?
You want to not be a slave.
Do you want to have magic powers?
Yeah. But,
Every 9-year-old is going to say, fuck yeah.
but at the same time, dude, you have to look at that as if they are true to what they're saying as far as like, hey, we're the Jedi. We have to make sure that what we do, it's best for the galaxy. What's best for the galaxy sometimes means making hard decisions.
That sounds a little occultist.
No, but if everyone's like, hey, that hurt my feelings, we can't do that. Well, then the strongest people are going to take over. That's it. Bottom line. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. I have very mixed emotions.
I mean,
about
granted,
it.
Anakin ended up turning dark side anyway. But you see what I mean, where it's like, dude, like, listen, we can either let these kids go run amok and just not become Jedi, or they might turn to the dark side or do whatever, or we do nothing.
I don't
And
think that
there's
they
no
can do-
people.
I don't think that they can do nothing.
But where do you get the Jedi from then?
You let people sign up.
No, but
You don't take 4 or 5
part of the problem
kids.
is-
the reason they take 4 to 5-year-old kids is so they don't
No.
learn to question.
no, that's
Yeah.
not what it is.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes.
The reason why, and it literally says, the reason why they don't take older children is because they don't have the bad experiences that force them to go to the dark side. They put them in an isolated room where say, listen, you always have to be level-headed. You can't have a bad breakup. You can't watch your family members die. You can't remember any of that because that is all negative shit that's going to make you angry. It's going to make you afraid, and it's going to make you want to go to the dark side. That's why they tell people you can't take them when they're older because they've already had too much bad shit happen to them.
Yeah, but that's not always necessarily for the best. Instead of teaching these kids how to manage emotions, they're teaching them that you always have to be level-headed. You always have to be good.
Yeah.
Which clearly doesn't work. Anakin goes bad, and then you have Rey as an example, who doesn't learn to use the Force until she's fucking 18 years old.
Because they're older.
Yeah, but she's good.
No, but what I'm saying is they all have troubling times with the Force. Everyone that was taken after they were too old all have trouble with using the Force. There's only a couple that go to the dark side that we assume were taken as children. Right? Everyone else was taken as children. The only ones that turned to the dark side were taken after they were older.
Yeah, it still seems cultist to me.
I'm not saying it's not, but what I'm saying is I see what you're saying, but you're looking at it like, well, just let everyone do what they want to do.
Well, yeah, that's called choice.
Yeah, I understand.
We like freedom in this galaxy.
But what I mean
I'm
is
American.
But what I'm saying is that if you are just saying like let everyone do whatever they want to do, then it's going to be all right. The one dude who has an army is going to win because nobody's going to want to be a Jedi.
Of course, people
they can't let them in after a certain age
because they're cultists. Of course they can.
No, they can't.
Of course they can.
Everyone they let in after a certain age turned to the dark side.
Every single one?
For a time, yes, they did.
I would like to see the
Anakin Skywalker.
All right, what about Luke?
I thought you were almost going to say Luke Skywalker turned to the dark side for a little bit.
For like a hot second.
But there was a serious question if he was going to or not.
Which he decided on.
But it was a serious question if he was going to or not. Right?
I wouldn't go that far.
Did you ever question if Obi-Wan was going to turn to the dark side?
Of course not. But
did you ever question if Qui-Gon was going to?
Well, no. We only knew him for 10 seconds.
Any other one that was taken from birth or from a little child?
To be fair, we don't know if every single one of them were taken from birth.
No, we don't. But we do know that Anakin was 10 and they were like seriously against letting him be trained.
9.
And they were seriously against letting him be trained.
That's true.
But everyone else was already trained. So you can assume that they were at least younger than he was.
You can make an assumption.
And none of them turned to the dark side. Except the only ones that we have are Dooku, who was a Jedi.
Yes.
That's the only one. And we don't really know his backstory because we're not that far down the nerd hole.
No, but we don't know any of their backstories.
No, but we know that they didn't want to let Anakin get trained. And the only reason he was allowed to get trained was because he was so special.
Yeah. And he had the prophecy attached to him.
If he didn't come with that resume, I don't think they let him get trained.
Probably not.
So that's why I'm saying every other Jedi.
Then that begs another question. So just because they're not getting trained doesn't mean that they're not going to have Force powers. So let's make a weird assumption that Anakin Skywalker does not have this prophecy attached to him.
Okay.
So they don't know this. And imagine, just for the sake of argument, Qui-Gon did not die in Episode 1.
Okay.
They don't train Anakin. What happens to him? Just because he doesn't get trained doesn't mean he suddenly doesn't have Force powers. Do the Sith go after him?
But it's still, well, yeah.
So, but that's part of the thing. They want to get the children early so the Sith, they don't go to the dark side so the Sith don't get them.
Yeah.
But if they leave them alone, they're still there.
The Sith are still going to take them.
Exactly. So what do you do with these kids?
You train them as Jedi. That's why they do it.
But no, even older? Because they didn't know Anakin existed until he was 9. They took
You mean can't train him?
They can't train him because he's too old.
Maybe
but he still has the Force.
Yeah, see, I think because he was an anomaly, they didn't have a set plan for that at the time. Because he was supposedly the chosen one. And
but he can't be a standalone example. There have to be other young kids or teenagers or even freaking adults in the galaxy that have the Force that the Jedi did not get to. So what happens if they go to find a 13-year-old kid who has Force powers, significant Force powers? We're talking Obi-Wan level. Good God, are we nerds? We're talking Obi-Wan level. Do they just say, nah?
I think, but this is how I look at it. Like, kids are sponges, right? As you get older, your aptitude to learn new things kind of goes down as far as how quickly you can absorb them and how integrated they are with your brain.
Yeah, that's true. That's fact.
So I feel like if you don't get the kid when he's younger and kind of embrace those things, the potential for having those skills as sharp are lower, which is why Rey and Luke are such anomalies, because they didn't have the training, yet they still were that powerful.
Yeah.
Which means, what would they have been like if they got them as kids?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think for like the regular people, you have to look at it like they probably just aren't really ever going to be that power. Like they have force sensitive natures, but then again, there's a lot of people in the universe that are force sensitive that could have possibly been trained as Jedis, and maybe that's what happens to them.
Yeah.
Like Maz Kanata, maybe she was.
You're really good with names.
Could it be a Jedi? But
wait, which one was that?
The girl with the glasses that like
she
Chewie.
She was force sensitive.
But what I'm saying is maybe nobody trained her as a Jedi. She could have been a Jedi when she was a kid,
Probably.
but they just didn't find her. So maybe
And they didn't, because at that point the Jedi were already extinct.
That's what I mean. Maybe because you don't hone those skills as a kid, it just kind of like you just have this weird sensibility, like a sixth sense almost, that you never trained as a child, so you don't
can't
really
hone
know
it.
how to fully harness it. So it's kind of like this thing that comes in like a shoddy radio, like you're going under bridges. Like the signal only comes in every once in a while.
I'm not sold. I still think they're a cult.
That's a good fucking thing, though. It was a good rebuttal.
It is a good rebuttal, though. We do see whatever her name is, Goggles Lady.
Maz Kanata.
We do see her. I think she like stopped the ceiling from collapsing for a hot second or something like that.
See, that's what I mean.
And-
she
and-
probably would have been trained as a Jedi if they found
Yeah,
her when she
yeah,
was
she
a
would've.
pupil or whatever. A
As a
larva,
child.
whatever she was when she was a kid.
Okay, this has been going on for 40 minutes.
Yeah, we gotta stop this now.
Let us know what you guys think of The Last Jedi down below. Like, subscribe, go to brodownpro.com for all your awesome gear. And
Yeah, let us know if we forgot anything too that you guys wanted.
we
to
talked
talk
for 40
about.
minutes, but I'm sure we.
Oh, we
could've
forgot a
talked
ton of stuff because I had like 3 other things in my head and I
Yeah.
forgot to tell.
I
them.
was the exact same way.
I don't remember what they are anymore.
It happens, dude.
Whatever.
All right.
May the force be with you.
Always.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day.